Welcome back everyone, it's your boy Jasemp, and today we're back here with another art video. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're actually going to do a sketchbook tour. This sketchbook's special to me because it was actually my first Moleskine sketchbook. For those of you that don't know, Moleskine's a sketchbook brand. I remember when I first heard about Moleskine, I thought it was a sketchbook made of like moleskin or something. What makes these sketchbooks unique is that no matter at what point you turn the sketchbook, from one side to the other it will be flush. I'll cut to a clip that shows you exactly what I'm talking about. First date on here is 8/19/16. So that is August 19th, 2016. A little over 3 years ago. I'm excited to crack this open. We're filming a video. Want to make a little cameo?
Absolutely.
I literally just started filming.
Yo, what's good, guys?
This is our boy KJ. KJ Frey. You know, he does the music for the intro. That you're gonna see very soon. Yeah, you're gonna hear me just talking in this room for a little bit.
Alright, bro. I love to see it. This video's about to be a banger.
Here is my first Moleskine sketchbook. If you're watching this in the future, right now is 2020. I'm excited to actually look into this. It's been a very long time since I've seen all of the drawings that are in here. Just start. First page, my full name. I always like writing that at the beginning of my sketchbooks. Jordan Alexander Vela Sempervivo. Open it up. We got our first drawing. I remember the main reason why I got Moleskine was because of the ability for a double page spread to be flush. That isn't really possible with other sketchbooks, like the clip that I showed you before. I knew I wanted for my first one to have a lot of double page spreads type of things and really put in time and effort. Not a lot of pieces in here are sketches per se. They're more pieces that I took a long time to make look nice because I was really happy to get this. So this piece is kind of fun because it's hard to read, but over here it says something can drastically change depending on the angle you look at it. This is a very kind of scary type thing. But if you flip it upside down, you can kind of see, but it's just a little cute dude with two eyes, a nose, nice little smiley face, so that's always fun. I was always trying to messing around with things like that. This is me practicing my calligraphy. I did this with an Expo marker. An Expo marker is great if you don't have any kind of calligraphy tools because it has that thick and thin edge to it. And so this is just some of my calligraphy practice. Another thing that I wanted to kind of see how the pages would hold the ink. Some other studies. I don't really remember a lot of this stuff. I think this was my attempt at a self-portrait. It looks nothing like me. Yeah, I even say, okay, so I say a portrait that does not look like me, but is still quite good even though it's supposed to be a self-portrait. So it's good for a portrait, not that great for a self-portrait. Loving to do kind of anatomical studies. Kind of the way that Da Vinci would do little studies like that, and I loved his sketchbooks. I mean, he was one of my biggest sketchbook inspirations and why I kind of got into sketchbooks. This here is a portrait that I started, but I stopped because I realized that it looked too similar to something that I'd seen before, and I always like to create original stuff. And so let's go on to the next one. This one has to be my favorite piece in this entire sketchbook. I think I made this October, potentially, because of the Dia de los Muertos type vibe that I was going for. I'd been very inspired by the candy skulls, and you have different markings on it that resemble that of the skulls and makeup that they would have during the parades. And being from LA, I remember every year they had this crazy parade, and I never went, but my art teacher would always bring some photographers down there, and he would always show the class kind of all the photographs that were taken. It was absolutely incredible and very inspirational to me. Okay, so this one here, going for a more designy type graphic design look. I come from a graphic design background. I do a lot of graphic design work as well as traditional artwork, and so sometimes in my work you see a lot of crossover. Only blue, this kind of yellow ochre, and then red, and bringing that all together to create this kind of weird type retro piece. During the time, this is when I was first exploring drawing a lot of suits on my characters, because I would be drawing a lot of heads. I didn't want to just have floating heads, so I kind of got in this habit of just drawing this quick little suit on a lot of my characters. I absolutely love to create different types of quotes that revolved around art. This has to be one of my favorites because it is by far my most creative quote. And it reads, "He without art is deprived of his most vital part." And on the surface level, I think it's a good quote, but if you read into it deeper, you see that he, which is spelled H-E, with art spells out heart, which is one's most vital part. If he does not have art, right, if heart does not have that art at the end, then it's no longer a heart. That person no longer has a heart and no longer has its most vital part. Basically, I'm not one of those mushy-gushy deep people, but I just thought it was a really creative take on, art's one of the most important parts of me. If you took that away, it would be probably one of the most vital parts taken away from me. Here's some other portraits. You'll see in a lot of my work that I have the date, so all these Roman numerals that you see, all the letters, I would always put them on the necks of all my characters. It's the Roman numeral for the year. Sometimes I hide it in my work, and so you won't see it on the surface level and you have to kind of search for it. Two of my friends back in high school, both had the last name Miller and both rocked man buns, so I kind of made this little character. This is when I was, messing around with the whole kind of drawing suits, but kind of doing more hipster type, look, the hipster type outfits to add character, working with foreshortening. I really love to draw hands because I thought that hands were a very, very emotional part of the body. I know that sounds weird, but I think depending on certain hand gesture, hand movement, it can evoke a lot of different emotion. Other than the face, I believe that the hands are the most important part of connecting to the viewer. So this is also funny. So I call this dude Monsieur Vandal because in high school my French teacher, his name was Monsieur Dahl, and obviously this guy is vandalizing stuff with the spray paint. So that's why I came up with the idea of Monsieur Vandal. A little play on words, thought it was funny. I had a little backwards beret, the idea of a siren kissing this dude, and you can kind of see his teeth from his skull are kind of showing, so she's kind of sucking the life force out of him. Her eyes open, his eyes closed, a little sus. I just really like the colors that I use with this. So this piece here, there are so many pieces in this original sketchbook that I have that have been an inspiration and kind of sparked different styles of mine. This sketchbook here was probably the best thing to happen to me. So this here is the proper orientation. You can see I wrote it because I wanted to make sure that if anyone who wasn't me viewed it, they would know exactly how to view it. I love the flow of this piece, and you can see here, this is where I hid the date. It was one of my first profile portraits that turned out in a way that I was really proud of. I was still not the best at drawing eyes in the profile. Originally, I had actually drawn her eyes open, but I actually made them closed. So you can either interpret this as her eyes open with, dark soulless eyes, or eyes are closed and it has black eyeshadow. I always look at it as the eyes being closed. So a lot of the work in this book is done with colored pencil. I used Prismacolor pencils for most of this, and I did that because I really loved how they blended. I think around the same time of me getting this sketchbook is when I got my first set of Prismacolor pencils. I remember I made this on an airplane. I'm gonna redo this piece. Same color scheme, same everything, but with the new anatomical knowledge that I have of the face. This was another piece that I did on the plane. I remember the dude sitting next to me had really, really bad breath, and he was sleeping with his mouth open, and it was very hard for me to concentrate, and so I just made this. I thought it was really funny. Another quote, "A good artist can draw his subject, but a great artist can draw his mind." And this is something I firmly believe. I think I wanted people to be like 100, 200 years to be like dropping quotes from me. I think that's why I started really thinking about good quotes that I can have. Yeah, sometimes there's just chaos. I tried making a portrait of like Harley Quinn or something and it just didn't turn out well, so I was just like, I'll make this look crazy. This one was when I was trying to work out my 3/4 angle, which I think is one of the hardest angles to do. And it's hard because things are just slightly different. And it's also hard because unlike the straight on view and the profile view, there's only one way to do a profile view, only one way to do a straight on view. The 3/4 angle, you can move in different ways and they're all considered kind of 3/4, right? But it could be slightly different. So for that, you just have to find what angle, right? What 3/4 angle you really like best, and just work it and work it. And you can see I was struggling with the eyes here, but but this is one of my favorites because it was one of the first 3/4 angles that I'd done that I saw it, I looked at it, and I was like, I like it. It's good. I love this one so much. And so I remember I was like, I want to draw something in a 3/4 angle, but I'm not that good at drawing eyes in a 3/4 angle yet. So I'm gonna put a blindfold on the person. I also didn't want to draw hair because hair is hard. So I made her bald. So this is kind of a character that I started developing. It was this character where I distorted the head shape because I was having trouble with a realistic 3/4 angle. So I knew if I distorted the head shape and kind of created my own little caricature, as long as I stuck to the basic fundamentals, things that were just slightly off wouldn't even register to people. I mean, it didn't even register to me. It's the fact that I'm able to do this that I was really, really prolific in drawing this type of character. There's not a lot in this book, I don't think. Towards the end, I think there might be, and you kind of saw it in the beginning with the spray can dudes. But this is where I really spent time and tried to develop this kind of style and made it a little more realistic with some shading. So my friend and I back in high school, we made a pact that when we made our first $10 million, yes, $10 million, we are ambitious. We still have this pact that we would get a tattoo of a question mark. I remember designing this. This is the question mark that I will be getting tattooed when I make my first $10 million. However that will be, I'm not entirely sure yet. It's a cool little thing to have, a little goal. This is one of my favorite mouths that I've drawn. I mean, it's so anatomically off. You only see the 2 front teeth, 2 bottom teeth, skinny face. It's just like evoked an emotion. I remember being so happy. This was a device that I was working on in my applied science class back in high school, where it was a pen that would oscillate back and forth really quickly and be able to do stippling, right? Like this, kind of like pointillism. Although pointillism is with color, stippling is with a single color, so this is stippling. Doing that at a very rapid rate, so you wouldn't have to do one at a time. And I remember I spent an entire semester working on it, and I actually developed something that worked, but I then later found out that it was already a thing. Someone else had, created a product, and it was much better than mine. Mine was just a science project that I brought to a science fair. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to use. That's what I used to create these. I called it DOT, Drawing Optimization Technology. Who knows, maybe in the future I'll create a different DOT product, not the math type. Here you can see how far I've come. Another one of my favorite quotes that I came up with. And another little play on words, because those were my favorite types of quotes. Art is not about how perfect you can draw a face, but how the imperfections of that face can draw a crowd. Obviously I drew a picture of a woman with a scar, but that's not what I mean. I don't mean it literally, but I drew this because it pairs well with the quote. What I mean is that drawing a perfect face is not what's going to make you unique. It's adding your own artistic flair to that face, and it's that and those imperfections, that is what's going to make people kind of look twice. So there's a little pen drawing that I did of myself, and then I realized that I didn't like it, so I drew the same exact thing in pencil, and I really like how this one turned out, and looking at it now, I could probably draw it again and do even better. As an artist, I never really settled, and I would always just work until I, created something that I was happy with. This one. Dang, okay. I keep on saying that one's my favorite one because I keep on forgetting about a lot of the other pieces that I have in here. This little creature here, definitely inspired by Venom, but still very different because it's more monstery. Drew a kid carrying some ice cream. See the little hidden date on his shirt. Liked how nonchalant I drew this kid, and that was the whole point. And the quote here is, no, you can't have a bite. Like any ordinary thing, even though it's just some beast. Again, me practicing the 3/4 angle. Because at the time I knew that I wasn't that amazing at it. I wasn't perfect, but I still drew with the 3/4 angle because I knew I wanted to improve, and I knew the only way to improve was to keep on drawing it and drawing it and drawing it. Sketching out a scene that I was going to be drawing a bigger piece for a project about the Tempest. So I did a bunch of studies on this. Because it was a big piece. I wish I had a photo of it. I don't have the piece anymore. You can see how much time I put into figuring out like the anatomy of the different characters and stuff like that, and the different positionings that they would be in. This is me testing out some calligraphy pens and stuff like that, practicing a 3/4 angle. I was a big fan of drawing the Trinity knot, and so I wanted to make my own more complicated, because I do have some Irish background in me. On my ring, there is a Trinity knot on the side. There's a entire Celtic band history about myself. And here's when I kind of started getting into doing different mythical creatures. And this is me practicing some hand anatomy, I think, and just different figure anatomy, which I hadn't really gotten into at all. I think I was trying to create a certain piece, and so that's what this was all about. A different perspective of a potential piece I was working on. And so this is also one of my favorite pages. This was me developing that kind of elongated face style and doing different characters, different facial expressions. And so, again, more brush pen work. And yeah, so that is the end. I'm so glad that I looked through this. Just looking through this has given me a lot of inspiration. And that's why I like doing sketchbooks, because if I'm ever in need of inspiration, then I'll go back and open a random sketchbook and see things that I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. Or this was just a sketch for an idea that I never did. And so doing stuff like that is always fun, and yeah, it always keeps the creative juices flowing. So anyways, I'm gonna cut back to me. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. It was really fun for me to look through my old drawings, and I hope that you guys got inspiration. I know I definitely got some new inspiration looking at some of my older work. Look forward to new videos. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, I would feel honored if you tap that subscribe button, gently tap that like button, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.